Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us tonight, Amber. So excited to just chat with you, and congratulations on your show. So many good things happening at the top of the year. Well, we just wanted to start with getting a little bit to understand how you got to this place. Tell us a little bit about how did you get into late night?
Um, Great question. I got into late night because I did a theater called Boom Chicago in Amsterdam. And it was a lot like the Second City. And I did Boom Chicago, and so did Seth Meyers. So every year, for how many ever years I was there, 5 years, he would come and see a show. So
Hmm.
he had seen me perform at least 5 times, probably more than that. And so then he knew who I was. So when it came time for him to start his show, he thought that he would have a lot of performing on the show. And so he hired me as a writer slash performer.
Hmm.
Um, and then I did it.
And it happened.
It
And
happened.
everything just happened. Well, that's amazing. And I mean, obviously it's a big step, right? To jump into a writer's room and to be on late night on a network. Most of our audience are young people who are diverse young people and thinking about how to break into these careers. What was it like for you when you sort of, got to that point? What were some of the first things that you had to really quickly learn as a young professional that you're like, okay, this is different than being out in the theater. Now I'm in a writer's room, just things that come to mind that were immediately sort of a shift.
Yeah, I had to learn how to use Final Draft, and that was bad. It took forever. I'm still not great at it. I shouldn't say that. It's fun, you can figure it out. Because you're smarter than me. But I had to figure that out. And I also like had to work a lot harder. Like it took a long time to be like, because a screen is not a stage.
Yeah.
A screen is not a stage. Oh my gosh, I'm off the rails. A screen isn't a stage. So everything plays completely differently.
Mm.
And your laughs come at different points. It is not the same. But once I figured that out, things got a lot easier.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, and that just takes time and practice, and just being in the room. And I guess to speak to that a little bit, could you tell us a little bit about what it was like in that first writer's room? I mean, now you're building your own room, but what was it like when you came to the Seth Meyers show? Tell us a little bit about the processes, because a lot of folks here don't even necessarily know, like, what does a writer's room look like? Is there kind of a hierarchy in the room? How does that work?
Yeah, we got there and it was silly and fun, but it there was 12 of us, I think, at the beginning. And a couple of people I knew from Chicago, and it was folks from all over, and we all were in one room. I think we're the only late night show where everyone writes in the same room. Every
Mm.
other show has separate offices for people, even my show, and we don't have like a lot of space, but our writers are broken up. But at late night, we're all in this big room. It's so much fun. And half of us, and I think this is true on late night shows, half of us write monologue jokes and half of us write sketches and like joke bucket things.
Yeah.
And I'm on this sketch team, and it is night and day. Like monologue people
Right.
have to turn in 3 sets of jokes. They have 3 monopacks due a
Wow.
day. And I do not. If I don't do anything in a day, that's fine.
Relatively. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
But then being next to those people and then watching them, the amount they had to work, and then the amount I had to work. And then every Thursday, we would turn in a sketch. And I was like, oh, well, even though those people work like dogs, they're still turning in a sketch. And I don't think that's fair. So then I
Mm.
just started to be like, I have to try to have more than one sketch. I can't just let these people suffer like this.
Got it. Always trying to be a good collaborator. I love that. And I'm curious, like when you're talking about having that much turnover and having to really think on your feet and be creative in that way, what's some of your advice for what young people should be like watching or reading or thinking about? Like, what's your process to just come up with sheer material?
I scroll a lot of news sites. I try not to need anything for the output. I try to put out over 18, so it's fine. But no, I try to, I sit down and I write every Sunday usually because I have stuff due Monday. And that's why I write what I write, how I write it. I sit down on Sunday, I go, by the end of this day, I need to have some Seth Meyers sketches and some Amber Ruffin sketches. So let's go. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And just like speaking to that thing, right? Where it's like writing is working too. You got to just sit down and do the work, put something on paper, it's hard. Easier said than done. I'm glad I don't write. Producing's hard too, but y'all are amazing. I think what's also interesting for folks is to back up a little bit, is it sounds like you were performing and you were in theater in Chicago. Was Seth Meyers your first job in the business, or were there other things that you were doing to kind of get experience, or did you just kind of come straight from that into late night?
I had done the Second City and then boom, Chicago and Amsterdam. And then I had moved to LA to make it. I roll my eyes, but I just realized I roll my eyes all the time. I say it all the time. Yes, to make it. And I was a part of a theater group, which was really what did it. Like this theater group is called Sacred Fools, and they do this thing called Serial Killers, where 5 shows enter and 3 shows leave. And, you do 10 minutes of your show. And then if you get voted through, you do the next 10 minutes the next week. But the show isn't written. You just write it when you win. So it was the best because it was so much pressure, because it wasn't just like putting up a sketch, like you won or lost. So it was a little heavier, and you were also in a hurry. In my case, we were doing musicals, so you had to churn out 2 songs and friggin' 5 minutes of dialogue every Sunday. Wow. And you had to put it into production on Sunday night and then choreograph it and buy props and stuff throughout the week. And it was a very good teacher for late night because you were in charge. It lived or died on your shoulders. And I think a lot of people don't know what that feeling is.
The pressure.
You know what I mean? And it was just a little fun theater, but it is exactly the same skill set. It's the same skill set.
Of just like getting in, doing it, putting your brain in like go mode, and just also have to be fearless, right? Because if you overthink what you're putting out, then you get slowed down.
Yeah. I feel like it is on late night, I think it's for most late night shows, you're also the producer.
Yeah.
You come with the idea and you have to take care of it, because people can't tell you where it has to be shot or what kind of Pope hat your Pope is wearing, or what, saggy pants mean saggy pants. You have to be in charge of every element, because every element is responsible, points to the laughs you hope to get.
Right.
And that was, I don't think it was easy for everyone, but it was very easy for me. I'm like, oh, I have to just delegate all this stuff. I don't have to go to the Gap and hope that they have something in the clearance section. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic.
Right. It's your Midwest accent coming out. I'm from Detroit, so I know it well. I think that that's absolutely, that's great. And that's something I say as well to folks is like, if you're coming up in production or any kind of production world, is like, just get into situations where you're having to do and wear a lot of hats, because it's the best training as you go forward and further focus your career. It's like, as a producer, if you've edited and shot and directed and done all of those things, it only makes you a better producer. It sounds like for you too, like if you've had to shop your own props and do this and this and this, it just, really hones your ability to understand how all of those things work together.
Yeah, I got together with two friends and we shot a bunch of videos, and they were not great, but two of them were. I think it was like 10, and then 2 out of the 10 were lovely.
That's good. 20%.
Great little videos.
Not bad.
Good hit rate.
Yeah.
And I got work off of those videos.
That's great.
Because I wrote them and I, produced them and I, put them up. And even though they were alongside 8 horrible videos,
right,
it didn't matter. What only mattered was, because people aren't going to pass around the bad stuff. People only know the good stuff. So you got to just churn stuff out, churn it out. Who cares? No one cares. I can't remember all the bad shows I've seen, and I've seen a million. But the bad shows, the bad stuff doesn't stick, but the good stuff you remember. Yeah. And I think that's true for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice, I think, because a lot of us get caught up in this idea that everything needs to be perfect. And then it just sort of gets in the way of output. And, to your point, that's just not going to ever be a real thing. So it's, and so I think, speaking of that getting you work, I'm curious, now you're in a position where you're hiring writers and you're looking at people who are applying into your show. What are some of the ways, like for a writer, like what are the tactical ways that they get a job? Is it a writer's packet? Like what's included in that? Are you looking for people at, similarly to how you and Seth connected? What should people be doing to try to get into these rooms?
I think that the best way to get into a room is to create a bunch of stuff. And I still think it's to make a silly video and enter it in festivals, get some laurels. And then when you apply to stuff, you're applying as the person who wrote this award-winning short. I think that's the easiest way to do it. It is. But also you should be in the community of the people you want to work with. Like, yeah, I didn't know until I got Late Night Seth that people wrote comedy, but didn't do comedy. I did not know that happened. Right. And here are, sometimes it's just a bunch of children from Harvard. It's just couldn't speak loud enough to scare a fly, writing all these jokes. And I'm like, I have never seen this in my life. This is new. But there are like writers groups you can be a part of if that's your thing, and you can perform, but you should be a member of the community you hope to be paid to be a member of. Right. Right. And, just because I know people want to know, just tactically, when somebody is like providing you writing samples, what are you looking for? Yes, whenever I ask for a packet, I want 10 jokes, a page of monologue jokes, which is like 10, and I want 2 sketches. What I want is 2 pages of monologue jokes and 4 sketches, but technically we're not allowed to ask for that anymore. Which is so funny because I was writing all these packets before I got Seth. I was like, this is crazy, making us write all this. And now I'm like, I want more than what I am getting. Yeah. Yeah. So I hurt my own feelings, but it's 10 monologue jokes, 2 sketches, and then 3 like ideas that are like pitches. for a sketch.
Got it.
So it is not a lot, but it also is. And like when you're doing that, and this is important, this is the nitty gritty. When you assemble your packet, you want it to go best to worst. So you write your monologue jokes and you write them from the best monologue joke to, I mean, you don't write them this way. You write 1,000,000 and then you choose 10.
Curate.
And then you put the ringers at the top. And so it should go good to bad. That's just a weird little fact I know. Another weird little fact I know is this thing. I always mean to send this. Maybe someone can put this in the chat. I can't be the only person who knows about this. There is this, what's it called? It's a thing a girl posted on Twitter 500 years ago. And it's just a huge list of all of the joke activators, like the punchline transitions, like in other words, or as the president calls it, or like all of the, but there, it's a whole page of like 2 columns of them. And that, if you're learning how to write monologue jokes, that's the thing you need. Because when I first got Late Night Seth, I felt guilty for sitting around. So I really tried to write monologue jokes for a long time there. And I'm not bad at it. It's just that I'm sitting next to the best, maybe some of the best joke writers in the world. So it's not going to come close. But that piece of paper really came in handy. It's very good for you. Someone will post it in here.
No, but that will, now people know what to look for, but that's great. Like stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it exists.
Yeah.
Google it. You can find it, I bet.
Because that kind of stuff is so helpful, because it's often like you're not even sure what it is that you need to prepare, or not everybody has representation or agents, or is able to kind of have that sort of support. So it's really helpful to hear from you what you think makes people stand out. And I mean, I'm assuming it's just good jokes, but is there anything that folks can do that you're like, oh, I'm going to pay attention to this?
Yes, you follow all of the rules. People you give them a set of rules, they'll just do whatever they feel. And it's nuts. You've got to be able to follow these basic steps.
Right.
So, and I mean, I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, I'm doing this better than blah, blah, blah. But it's only good to follow the rules. Follow the rules. Because if you can't, then
you're telling me something. You're telling me something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I hear that. That's super helpful. And then, I'd love to just talk about your transition into your own show. Like, that's obviously incredible, and congratulations. And so wonderful to see a Black woman on late night, on Peacock. I mean, it's amazing. It's, I remember when Lily got her show, what a big moment that was. And then, it's wonderful to just see that landscape changing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
But tell us, a little bit about what was that transition like? Was that something that, you were writing at Seth Meyers, and how did that get into motion? Was it, was Seth helpful in that? Was it like you pushing it with your, how did that work?
Our producer, Shoemaker, one day walked by and was like, NBC is looking for something to fill this time slot. Why don't you write up a fun little late night show? And I was like,
no big deal.
Okay. And then we wrote it up, and then we sent it to NBC, and they said, no, thank you. And then a year went by, and then NBC came to us and was like, do you remember that late night show? We want it for this weird thing.
Got it.
And it was great. It was ready to go.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And that's another reason why you should always just write down all your little ideas.
Yeah.
And it's going to come in handy.
And also come back around, right? Because so much of this world is timing. We find that too, where it's like a show that we've been pitching for a minute. We're like, let's just take a beat, and then we pitch it again. And like, this just happened to us where we were pitching something and about 2 years ago, and we felt like, okay, people aren't quite there yet. And then we literally just started pitching it again, and we already sold it. And it's like somebody who'd seen it before too. So, it's also about timing, and for people to not get kind of, disheartened when things don't necessarily work right away. It's like, keep at it. And sometimes it's also about just like keeping time with the culture, and that's, you can't control that. So you just got to keep putting things out. And the timing will sort of come to you at that point. And then, would love to know just a little bit more about, on your own show, how have you thought about like changing the way in which you build your writer's room? Are there things that you're doing that you feel like are really important to your process that are maybe different than, the way other people have done it, or things that you learned that you feel strongly about that you've, wanted to implement now that you have your own show?
Yeah, I think Seth's show is great, and I want to be doing what he is doing all the time. Like, it is the funnest, silliest place to be. It's so magical. Like, everyone is nice and everyone is friends, and we giggle and act bad, and it feels like a family. It's really nice. And Seth said to us, probably like the first week we were there, he said, a lot of people could do this job, but I hired the nicest people I knew. And he did. And we're still nice, and it's still fun.
That's big. And the importance of being likable, but not, at the expense of your own self-care. That's something I've had to learn too. It was like, sometimes someone's just, and it's fine. And you just gotta like put up a boundary, and I think that's an important thing to learn, especially as you're entering the field, is of course being likable is so important, and we all should be striving for that. But then also like kind of learning as you grow into your career, like when you need to put up those boundaries and sort of set a, nope, not today.
Yeah. Easier said than done.
Yeah, yes, for sure. Well, what do you feel like you sort of, I know that there's probably a lot of writers and maybe even producers that are sort of listening on the producer side of the late night landscape. How do you kind of see producers getting into that world? How are they breaking in? How do you find producers? What are you looking for?
I have no idea. I don't know. Great question. Because all our people are late night people. Like almost everyone, we are just like, okay, we're in the same theater. I mean, yeah. I always say theater. We're in the same studio. So let's just have the same people. Great. And then everything's so easy.
It's amazing.
But I don't know what people are looking for when they're looking for producers. I mean, eventually I'm gonna need to know. And I guess I'm gonna be glad I have your email, because I'm gonna ask you.
Got it. I'll start working on it. No, I think late night is its own little world and village, right? It's like this separate, I'd love to hear from you, like, how do you describe the late night world? Because it feels like it's, its own sort of section of the TV landscape.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really, really small. Like there's only a very small amount of us. Yeah. And it's nice because you kind of get to know a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I might not know like the host of a show, but I know at least some of the writers on every show. I can't, no show is late night show is far away from me. Right. I probably have almost everybody's email.
Right.
But it's nice though, because everyone works together. And they do. This is going to sound silly, but like all the network late night talk show people, text, all those guys are on like a chain, and they, say when they're going to be gone or what they think this new issue is or this and that. And it's nice. But like, however nice they are, Black women in late night, it's that times a million. Like Black women in late night are so freaking ferocious about supporting other Black women in late night. I am very spoiled.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And that's so good to hear. And I think, to your point, it's like just finding and being in community with people too is such an important part of the work that we do in entertainment. Is like, you're often working long hours, you're tired, like you need to be around people where when it gets tough, you can still, it's nice to be nice when everything's nice. But when you're tired, it's hard and not working, that's when it all comes out. So
Yeah.
I hear you on that, like building community. And I always urge people to really think about that part of their career too. Like, of course, it's super important to be being strategic and gaining technical skills, but it's also really important to be a good creative collaborator and somebody people want to work with, and that you are, controlling parts of your personality because they're all there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. So we have a question, and we are ready to hear from them.
Hi, Amber. My name is Kelsey. First off, just want to say your pandemic accomplishments segment was one of the most comforting things I've seen on TV, so thank you for that. My question is, I'm a student at Drake University in Iowa. I have writing experience, but I'm not sure how to break into the industry literally in any way for late night. Do you happen to have any advice for people in my shoes? Sorry, I am like sweating. I apologize.
We can't see that you're sweating. Also, I'm cold. Here, wait. I'm going to put this on.
Nice.
That's how I feel. I can't help it. You guys, my house is cold. Okay. How do you break in? I don't know, man. The way I did it was performing and being a good performer. And that's certainly one route. You can also just start to submit essays to magazines. You can submit funny essays and get your funny essays published. You can also have a funny Twitter. Oh, sorry. That should be the first thing. You should be tweeting at least a joke every day. Because when I see your name, the very first thing I'm going to do is go to your Twitter and see if you're putting out jokes every single day. And if you're not, I'm going to be like, oh, well, I guess I'll find their website and then I'll go to your website and maybe I'll get distracted, but maybe I'll get there. And then if it's sloppy, I'll be like, and then it'll fizzle out. But that first line of defense is for sure Twitter. And I'm sorry that it is this, but it is.
Okay. Thank you so much. No, I've submitted to Flex and I had one of my things in the progress. So thank you so much.
Yeah, get it.
All right.
That's great.
Hey, Amber, it's great to be here. Big fan. Yeah, my question is, like, when you're writing a submission packet for a show like yours, how do you balance writing in the voice of the host while demonstrating your own kind of unique voice? How do you stand out?
I don't think you should ever write in the voice of the host ever. I think you should write exactly the way you would say it in exactly your tone, but it can't be like, we're here at the factory. It can't be that. It has to still be within like the realm of sensibilities. It has to have the same sensibilities, but it should be like, tonight the host of the show is you, and it's exactly words you would say exactly the way you would say them.
Awesome. Thank you. That's helpful.
I'm helping.
Hi, Amber. I'm Hallie. I go to the University of Arizona. I'm actually seeing a taping of Late Night a week from today, so crazy timing. I know, I'm so excited. But the question I wanted to ask, so it's been like, I grew up always knowing I wanted to work in the late night industry, but I never really got to see a lot of like women represented within that. So it means a lot to me to see you in the late night industry. So I wanted to ask, like, what do you think the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome as a woman in late night comedy has been? And like, how did you overcome that?
I don't know. I mean, there is the general womanness of having a job in the world. But yeah, I don't know. I guess you're just different from everyone else. But I never thought of it as like a bad thing. It always felt great. It might feel a little lonely but I just never was like, oh no, I mean, oh, okay. So here's a little bit. People will be like, you don't know what you're talking about. And that, you ain't never going to shake that. No one wants to listen to you. And you're going to have to be like, I mean, what's going to happen is eventually your voice is going to get lower and lower and lower. I mean, if you're doing comedy and you're a woman, I'm barely exaggerating. You're gonna be like, hey everybody, hey everybody, hey, and then that's just who you are from now on.
Hey, thank you so much for hosting this, Risham, and amazing to meet you, Amber. I hope you're both doing well. So a lot of people in entertainment have told me that audiences, and they specifically said mainstream audiences, are not interested in racial justice. Like they say it's too heavy for comedy. I think the Amber Ruffin Show is like a perfect example of how that's not true. But how do you deal with people in power who still say those things, or people who believe those things?
Yeah, I have never encountered those people because John Oliver exists, you know, and Seth Meyers exists, and to a certain extent, friggin' James Corden exists. Oh, and you know, to a gross extent, Bill Maher exists, but what he's doing is in that same category. So I don't know who said that, and they don't know anything.
That's great to know.
Yeah, it's a lie. Whoever told you that is just sad. They don't want to hear it. Yeah.
Love bad lies.
That's just not true. And actually, the more I think about it, that is really not Catherine, because I mean, every late night show or every show that I watch, like that's why I watch it, because I'm like, I'm looking for that.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
It's so nice to meet you both. I'm actually a production assistant at NBC. So I do audience services for your show sometimes, Amber, and it is easily the best part of my day.
Yay.
So my question is, as I'm sure you know, applying for jobs in the television industry is extremely competitive, even in late night, even though it's really small. So do you have any advice for standing out in a group of so many other extremely talented people?
To get a job doing what?
Well, me personally, I would like to get into producing, but I'm still, you know, exploring. So just in general, you know, there's so many other talented people out there. And sometimes, even though, you know, you network and you meet a lot of people, it's still really hard to stand out and to get certain jobs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think, you know, you just have to get them reps in, you know, you have to make projects and work on projects and and say yes to everything and do your little friends garbage videos. You got to do all that stuff so that you can have a body of work. And I say this every time I talk to anyone about anything, but the only way you can't get hired by going, I'm good at this, that does nothing. You always have to have a body of work and be like, look at all this stuff I did, so that people can go, oh, well, there's proof. You have to have proof. And sometimes it's like, well, you know, I like to think that you work like you're getting paid until you get paid to work. I mean, that's what I did.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Amber, for sharing your wisdom tonight. My name is Fola Onifade. I'm a staff writer for a political media organization called Democracy in Color. And my question is, what did your writing process look like before you started working with Seth Meyers? Specifically, like, how do you think about your rewriting process and like editing your own work?
Sorry, I'm distracted. What's your job?
I'm a staff writer for a political media org called Democracy in Color. So we have a podcast.
What does your writing entail?
So I script our podcast, but it's like very like fluid. Like I give sort of ideas and I'll script for for one of the hosts, but when they get on the show, they kind of say their own thing and do their own thing. It's just more of a guideline.
Okay. All right. I see you, bud. Sorry. What was your question?
My question is around like your refining process of writing. And so I guess my question is more around my own personal writing and how I refine, like how to make the product go from a good draft to like a strong draft.
I hate rewriting. I hate rewrites. I hate it. And I know you got to do it, but I don't like it. So here is how I do it. I write it and then I get away from it. And then I rewrite it literally what I do is I wake up on Sunday and I write, and then I go live my life. And then on Sunday night, I rewrite it. And then I go live my life. And then I wake up in the morning and I rewrite it. So that's everything. That's my full rewrite schedule.
Do you rewrite from scratch? I know some people will like start completely.
Absolutely not. No, that's horrible. Shame on those people. No, I'm just kidding. You should do whatever you feel. But I don't ever do that because I also am not precious with ideas. I'll throw an idea out tomorrow. I don't care. If we lost the whole show today, Friday show, we'd be fine. I think that everyone is a fountain of ideas. And behind this idea, there is a million more. And if you end up throwing them, also in late night, you write for the garbage. 90% of what you write goes in the trash. And 90% of what I write goes in the trash on my show. I shouldn't say that. That's not true. I'm pretty nice to myself. But yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, I wanted to pop in a question here and thank you so much, Fola. Before we move on to Vaughn, it's like in late night, because it is so, it's every night. What is the schedule really like? You know, where are you getting your breaks, if at all?
At Late Night Seth, we write Monday through Thursday. Monday, we turn in a pitch. Tuesday, we turn in a sketch. Wednesday and Thursday, we live our lives. And then Friday, we don't work. But on the Amber Ruffin Show, Monday, we have a sketch read. Tuesday, we are, just smoothing things out. Wednesday, we have a pitch. Thursday, we are rehearsing. And then Friday, we shoot the show. So those two things are on top of each other.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So there's that. That's amazing.
My question is, who does your suits? No, I'm kidding. My question is, getting into late night as a host specifically, was that, I wanted to ask, how did you and your team define like how you wanted to stand out? But I guess more so, how did you want to fit in as opposed to like being a Black late night host or like a Black woman late night host, like, and just be another late night host? Was that like something that you and your team talked about? And what was the process of doing that?
Yeah, I was very, very clear. I think everyone was like, oh, and then you're gonna have like, it's just like a big fun couch, and then you'll just, it'll be like a homey feel. I was like, absolutely not. My will be exactly like every other late night show, because I want to stand toe to toe with those people. So when they look at me, they got to look us all in the eye. Yeah. And we are doing no one can say, well, it's different. It's more conversational, or it's not. No. I also have a monologue. I also have a freaking skyline of blobby blue behind me.
Suits too.
Exactly the same.
The suits too. Yeah, I love it.
Yes. And I was like, I also want to have suits like Kurt Hummel from Glee was what I said. That's for 4 of you. And they did it. Yeah. I was like, I don't want to wear like girls shit. I want to be a late night host. And we did it.
That's good.
And that's why it looks like it does and sounds like it does.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want my version of this. I want if I get to do any good, if this show lasts for 2 episodes, I want them to see me doing this exact thing, exactly what these people are doing.
I love that. That's unique. I love it's unique while still being the same. I love that.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
To that note, I think there's a political statement to be made in that. Like, tell me about like the politics of that choice, right? Of saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it. I'm not going to turn this into some, like I'm going to actually be doing this the way late night is done. Because I know it's interesting. There was a lot of conversation around Lily's show, like, oh, well, so different and maybe finding, but, there wasn't this sort of thing of like, well, no, this is also a late night host. Just because they're a woman or a person of color, like, doesn't mean that their show is suddenly now like this whole different universe. So just would be curious to speak to the choices in politics around, navigating some of that, which I'm sure is a whole other panel, but just a brief window.
Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like if I was a all white guy, they would have been like, which suit, which skyline,
Yeah.
Here they're like, maybe you can wear a big sweater with boots. I don't know what people wear. I think that's pretty clear. No, but I did think that it was important to me to not just be like doing whatever I felt. I wanted to be viable, no matter what happens, to be like, oh, there was this viable version that is interchangeable. That's what I wanted. That didn't really answer your question.
No, but I get it. And it's trying to understand just the politics of navigating that space, because oftentimes the writer's room and the thing that you're building is also then different than like the larger network setup and situation. So yeah. Well, yep, got it. Not much we can say there. So let's get into it.
Hi, sorry, I was speaking.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. I just want to say thank you for mentioning Kurt, because I totally ship Blaine and Kurt together. Even though I'm totally a Rachel Berry, low key.
Oh my God, Ashley, you're my favorite.
Yeah, so my name is Ashley Castillo. I am a disabled student from Lehman College, Bronx, New York, and I aspire to be a news anchor. My question is, I would like to know if you worked with any disabled writers. Also, why doesn't the show write pieces on disabled people, like jokes or anything in regards to that? Because, representation is missing in this community.
Yeah, you're right. I don't have any disabled writers. I don't think, but we were very, very, very close. And she did not choose us.
Wow.
But she is doing great. I'm not going to blow up her spot. She's doing great. So yeah. But I did think, that was certainly something I had an eye towards, and I honestly didn't until I talked to her. We weren't looking for a disabled writer. She was the best. You know what I mean? We weren't searching for someone who was disabled. We just found the best, and she just also happened to be disabled. And we were like, oh my God, a whole new avenue of things we could write and do and speak to. But I never do any jokes about the disabled. And I truly never thought.
It's like a missing corner of the galaxy that's missing part of in our country based on disabled people.
I mean, you ain't said that is truer than true. But
I'm a writer, so yeah, I see that in every aspect. Lawyers, doctors, the representation is there, it's just not shown onto light because of the pity that's giving to the community.
That's very true. I'm always like, I don't want to say something bonkers. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I am always like, what if I wasn't there to check my white bosses? They'd be, so they, got in so much trouble. So then it does make me be like, well, let me leave this alone. But then who benefits from that? Man, I could talk to you all day about this.
I'll
Cause
give
like,
you my number. I don't mind.
it is true though. Cause
Yeah.
it's like the whole point of me doing what I do, how I do it, is representation.
Yeah.
It is, I do like that comfort.
It's a
And
legacy that you hold.
to be able to provide that for another group of people, for an additional group of people, I mean, that is right up my alley. That is exactly what I want to be doing. So yeah, you just started some, dude.
Something exactly. See, you're left with something. Thank you, Ashley, for that.
I hope I get paid for the writing that you do. I'm just joking.
You want a commission?
Of course, would be nice. No, I'm joking.
Listen, you got the negotiation chip. I like that. You need that in this
That's
business.
right. Ashley, you better get your money.
That's right.
My goal is to do Good Morning America as a news anchor. So yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Keep going. I love that.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi, Amber. Hi, Rishem. My name's Kaylee. I'm an aspiring late night writer finishing a screenwriting MFA from UCLA currently. Amber, I have loved getting to learn from you today. I'm such a huge fan. And my question for you is, what in your eyes makes a successful late night sketch? I've always wondered.
What I like to do is when I don't know. This is my route to the stuff I write is I would go, what do I feel like doing? Like I ended up writing something with roller skates in it once, and it was because I felt like roller skating. So to me, that is how I live. But it's also like, I do think it is fun to find the most dangerous thing and a way to talk about the dangerous thing. To me, that is what is the most fun. But yeah, that's not an answer. What makes a good sketch is how, a measure I do have is how embarrassed I feel. Like, is it a little bit embarrassing? And that is my North Star when I'm doing comedy, is I want to always feel a little bit embarrassed. Like when I'm dancing and singing, to me, it is so funny because it's embarrassing. I shouldn't be doing it. It makes me laugh. The fact that I'm doing it makes me laugh. But to me, it's, do you feel embarrassed? But the technical answer is, does it establish exactly what the scene will be about, and how does it subvert those expectations? And what is a clean button that both ends it and leaves it a little open?
I love it.
That's the boring answer.
Okay, so I'm going to be watching with the whole new lens. Is Amber embarrassed? That's the question.
Hey, buddy, if you could see me, I'm embarrassed. Well, not now. That's on my show. My husband just came back from being gone for 10 days.
Oh, okay. We are wrapping up soon, so you can go.
There's 300 people, so don't act crazy. He's liable to come in here and say anything.
This is Zoom life. Listen, I've had it happen.
Hi. I had this whole prologue to my question, but you've already answered most of that. So the second half of my question is kind of on this topic of representation, and that you're unique to late night, and that you're doing something and bringing something that only someone with your talent and lived experience combination can bring. And so how do you deal with the pressure and both, I hope, the empowerment of producing your work? And separately, what do you think is the next evolution, step, shakeup, all of the above for late night?
Ooh, great questions. I Yeah, yeah, it just makes me think of like a million things. But also like the evolution of late night is going to be more specific, because I think everyone thought, that's also kind of an answer to the first question too. I think everyone thought that the only way to be was the way everyone else was. And then stuff has slowly gotten more and more specific. And my friend Jenny Hagel, if you talk to her for any amount of time, she'll end up saying the specific is universal. And I think people are learning that. And also people are looking at whole groups of people and being like, oh my God, I don't know one thing about a whole group of people. And they feel embarrassed. And then it makes them want something different than they've always had. So I think that's the evolution of late night, is new blood.
Hi, Amber. Hi, Michelle. Michelle, you asked the best questions. Like I was like, okay, what can I ask that hasn't been asked already? But Amber, it's such a pleasure to be here with you tonight. My question is, how do you feel about like just this direct approach, just emailing producers your script? Like, hey, I don't know you. I love you. My name is Dwayne. Here's my script. Like, how do you feel about that type of approach?
I don't know. I don't know. Because like, here's the thing. You shouldn't do that. But no one's going to remember if you did it. Like, I stand by that. Like when a stranger sends you email, you're like, what the is this? You never remember the name. Either you're like, oh, let's read this. Or you're like, ugh. There is no in between where you go, let me see. Dwayne McBean shot me a script and I didn't ask for it. People don't remember. I think shoot them up and go for it. But that's my whole vibe.
Hey, so you should or you shouldn't do it?
I would do it, but I'm pull the trigger type of dude.
Hi. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for coming. It's been really nice hearing from you. My question is, do you have any like networking tips, especially now, like it's really hard to network and find a job or internship in the time of COVID. So if you have any networking tips, that'd be really helpful.
Yeah, I always think of networking as, people think of networking as networking up, but that's not really what it is. Networking is only sideways. Networking is planting seeds. It's very rarely going up, because it's these people who will be in charge in, nowadays, like 2 years. It used to be you were planting seeds for a much longer amount of time. But also, it's people of your same station who they're going to go, hey, do you know anybody who's gabba, gabba, gabba? And they're asking them instead of you because they don't know you yet. So you should always, come into your internship with no garbage and, pay attention to details and be the person people can rely on, because it matters now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Amazing. I was just to piggyback on that, what you're saying, Amber. I think that's so critical, and just as a real reminder to folks as they sort of get into their careers, because of course it's important to be meeting with people who can hire you and finding those relationships. But to your point, Amber, I've also found in my last, 17, 18 years, like the people that I've known for a while and trusted, like they're the ones who are the head of development now. And they're the ones who are like buying from me, and it's because we have relationship and trust that we built, and we've come up together. So I cannot say enough about how critical it is to really think about networking with the people you're with. And like, to me, we even say that to our interns, say like, build relationships with each other. Like, of course, we're here to help and mentor and support, but also you all are in the same, cohort and coming up together. So that's so important. On that note, just want to thank you so much, Amber. It was absolutely fabulous to have you. And I know that this was very, very valuable for our audience. So thank you.
Yay, thank you for
and good luck. Of course, and we'll be watching.
Yay, that's right.